So I'm recording this video on the first day of PaizoCon, and of course they talked about the remaster today. So I thought today I'd go over a few of the things that they spoiled and confirmed for Player Core 1. Let's just get right into it. So if you saw the remaster stream this afternoon, this video isn't for you. This is for everybody that missed it. I'm going to start with Ancestries. It has been confirmed that Leshy and Orc will be in Player Core 1, and the Orc ancestry is no longer uncommon. So all you players that want to play Orcs will have a much easier time now. And two big changes to Ancestries have been confirmed as of now. The first is that half-Orc and half-Elf are now versatile heritages. Yeah, they're no longer tied to humans, which means you can be a half-Orc or a half-Elf with any ancestry now. The second one is because of the OGL nonsense, they had to get rid of Aasimar and Tiefling. But don't worry, you're still going to be able to play those types of characters because of the Nephilim. In fact, they made it even better because now you can combine feats from the Aasimar and the Tiefling into one character. So you're going to be able to have characters that have demon hooves and halos, which I think is amazing. And the last thing they confirmed about Ancestries is that the Changeling Versatile Heritage is going to be in Player Core 1. That's pretty much what they talked about when it comes to Ancestry. So, before I move on to classes, I do want to talk about the spell changes because some of those do affect the classes. First, two big changes to spells. First of all, alignment damage is no longer a thing because alignment doesn't exist. No, they've added spirit damage now. Everything that used to do alignment damage is now going to do spirit damage, which is actually a lot better because now spells like Divine Lance and Divine Wrath are going to be able to hit a whole bunch more things. Basically, as long as the thing has the spirit, those spells are going to be able to hit it. And the other big thing is spells will no longer have components. So for instance, spells will now just have the manipulate trait instead of having somatic components, making it much easier to understand spells. And of course, again, because of the OGL nonsense, they're gonna have to change the names of some spells. But they've done more than that. A lot of spells they've also combined together. For example, the light spell is now going to combine the effects of the light spell we have now and dancing lights. They've also changed Magic Missile to Force Barrage, and they've changed Tree Shape into one with plants and added some new effects to it. They didn't tell us what those new effects are, but they did confirm that one with plants is going to have more effects than just what Tree Shape is now. They've also confirmed a new spell called Tree of Seasons, which creates 4 seeds that all do different types of elemental damage. Great spell for druids or other primal casters. Another big change for spells is they finally fixed Magic Weapon and Magic Fang. Only they're not called Magic Fang and Magic Weapon anymore. Now we've got Runic Weapon and Runic Body. And those spells now scale. Meaning you're going to be able to cast those spells at high levels to get greater and major striking runes. They've also confirmed that status removing healers are going to be much better. Now they have one spell for removing all the mental conditions and one spell for removing all the physical conditions, making those healers much more viable. They've also confirmed that Frostbite is going to do cold damage, obviously, but on a critical failure, it's going to give them weakness to bludgeoning damage, making that a great teamwork option. And finally, we have a big change to focus spells. Now you're going to be able to spend 20-30 minutes to get all your focus points back, rather than be limited to just getting back one focus point for 10 minutes. That of course means they're also getting rid of all the feats that allow you to get more focus points back in 10 minutes, other than the last one. The one that lets you get 3 focus points back for 10 minutes. And that's pretty much it for the spell changes that they talked about. So now it's time to talk about what you guys really cared about, the changes to classes. So the 8 classes that have been confirmed For player core 1 are Bard, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Ranger, Rogue, Witch, and Wizard. For the Bard, they've added some flavor details, as well as giving the Bard some new spells and all martial weapons. Yes, now if you're a Bard, you have access to all martial weapons regardless of your muse. Which means the Warrior Muse is changing, which is what a lot of people want. They didn't tell us what the Warrior Muse is changing to. We'll see. For Clerics are going to be able to sanctify spells to do holy and unholy damage, specifically spirit damage spells. So yes, you're still going to be able to hit that demon for its good weakness. The other big changes have to do with War Priests. War Priests now get Master in their deity's favored weapon, which is huge. And they've also upped the proficiency of War Priests in other martial weapons as well. And they confirmed a new Cleric feat, War Priest's Armor, which allows War Priests to wear heavy armor and it scales with level. Those are the big changes to Cleric. Now it's time to talk about Druid. For Druid, they're adding more feat options for some of the less used orders, like the Leaf Order, and Druids are now going to be able to wear metal armor. Again, it's pretty huge. In the Fighter section, they didn't really go over stuff that's specific to the Fighter, but they did go over stuff that affects the Fighter as well as other classes. First up, they are completely removing the Open traits. Just flat out removing it. And they did mention the reposition action, but they didn't go into detail on what that is. And that's about all they said when it comes to the Fighter. For Ranger, Warden spells aren't going to be feats anymore. They're going to be a part of the Ranger core class, which of course means all Rangers are going to have spell DCs now. Second, they've reworked Crossbow Ace to work better with crossbows. And they've also added the Arbalist crossbow, which is basically a crossbow that has a reload 1 and does a lot of damage. Now we come to my favorite class in Pathfinder 2e, the Rogue. Rogue got exactly what I wanted, training in all martial weapons. And they said that the rackets are going to incentivize you to use certain weapons. They didn't go into any more detail than that, but I assume it's like the thief is going to want to use finesse weapons, the ruffian's going to want to use like big weapons and stuff like that. Those are the main changes when it comes to Rogue. They said the Witch was getting a big overhaul, and they were not kidding. First up, they're making the patrons more specific. For example, I think the example they gave was that the Cursed patron is going to be the Resentment patron now. Also, they're going to make the patron a little more present. And they're giving the Familiar a specific, unique ability based on the patron. They're also giving the Witch a new focus spell called Patron's Puppet, which allows the Familiar to do stuff as a free action rather than you having to spend an action on your turn. Unfortunately, you're still only going to be able to do 1 hex per turn. They've also confirmed 2 new abilities. Witches are actually going to be able to fly on brooms now. And they also have an ability that lets your patron grab people through your Familiar, both of which sound awesome. And finally, the Wizard. The Wizard got a few changes. First, the Wizard now has all simple weapons, which is fantastic. Secondly, the B-Spell weapon feat is being rewritten, and we'll talk about why in a second here. And finally, the big change for Wizards. You're not going to have your Necromancy school or your Evocation school or even your Transmutation school anymore. The only school of magic you're going to have as we know it is the Illusion school, because illusions work differently. Instead, you're going to have basically stuff like the School of Unified Magical Theory, which is basically the Universalist school, but then you're also going to have stuff like the School of Battle Magic, which has things like Fireball, Lightning Bolts, Earthbind, Resist Energy, all the spells you would use in combat. And then you're also going to have things like the School of Civic Wizardry, which is going to have like Wall of Stone, the spells that summon golems, and things like that. Those are 2 of the examples that they gave in the stream. I'm sure there's going to be more than that, but that's basically what they're doing with Wizard. And that's a lot of the spoilers that they gave in the remaster part of the stream today. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, and don't forget to check out the Patreon page for exclusive perks. If you like this video and you want to see more on this channel, you can check out this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.